I will warn you, I want to thank you. It's great to be here. When His Excellency asked me, did you ever think of coming to Juneau? I couldn't spell Juneau. I wouldn't have been able to find it on a map, but I said, you bet. And then when I said, can I bring my son? He said, you bet. Bring him along. And we were on the plane with about, coming from Seattle with about 700 hunters. We were also on the same plane. And one of them said to the other hunter, he said, was explaining, been here before, the other had me, he said, I got to tell you, the people in Southeast Alaska are the nicest people you will ever meet. And it's true. It's true. Our visit here has been fantastic, and I want to thank you for your hospitality, Your Excellency. You have a great bishop, by the way, no? Great. One of the rules of public speaking, always compliment the people you're going to speak to. And the other that I should warn you about, I was a professor for many years, so I spent years of my life learning the skill of helping people take naps while I was talking. It's especially bad after a nice, delicious meal, right, after the after-dinner speech. So I'll try not to do that. I've been giving me about 25 minutes, 30 minutes. Father said you can have an extra 5. We were negotiating before. He's a generous. Mercy. Mercy. What I'd like to do tonight is share with you what Pope Francis has communicated over and over again in a number of ways, and help it sort of live for you, maybe breathe for you a little bit in his vision of mercy, what he means by a vision of mercy. And it goes beyond really just a year of mercy. He speaks of changing culture, creating a culture of mercy. He also uses a Spanish word that I'm going to use tonight. He uses a Spanish word, encuentro. I had the privilege of growing up in Latin America. I lived for about 6 years in Caracas, Venezuela, and prayed for that country to follow things. Venezuela's in a very bad way these days. And the way that Latin Americans, Mexicans, Central Americans use the term encuentro, it means something different than we mean in English Bible. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But what I want to communicate tonight, we've got 3 days together, so hopefully tonight goes well and you come back. If not, there's also, you can treat this as penance. What Pope Francis is doing is more than simply calling us to be merciful, which he's certainly doing. We're going to talk about that. But his vision is that we create in the church and for the world a culture of mercy. That there's a whole way of being that we communicate by how we live and how we act that changes the world around us, that we create a culture. And that's what I'm going to try to communicate tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to move into, so how do we do that? How do we practically do that in our own lives? It affects how we live, it affects how we treat our families, and it affects how we go on mission. And those are going to be the 3 themes of the rest: ourselves, our families, and our mission. But tonight I just want to give you the vision that comes from Pope Francis. And I'm going to do it in 3 parts. 3 parts. And this is so you don't despair after I've been going a while, because you haven't been finished. Let me say it's down to part 2. 3 parts. I'm going to talk and use Pope Francis' words here. I'm going to talk about what he calls, what he laments, what he's sad about, and what he calls a throwaway culture. A throwaway culture. This is his diagnosis. When he looks around at the world and says, what's wrong, what's broken? He says, we live in a culture of throwaway culture. Then I'm going to talk about his answer to that, which is a culture of mercy, or what he also says, a culture of encuentro, a culture of encounter. Okay? And so that's going to be the second part. And the third part, I'm just going to make some concluding comments about what that means for us, how we do that. That will point to the future. It was very interesting. When Pope Francis was elected, I was actually in a room full of bishops. I was working with bishops for a while. I was in a room full of bishops. We were in a board meeting. And I won't say which board of that, because I'm going to reveal things. So I'll keep it. I work for the bishops. I'd like to keep my job. And we're in a whole room, and everyone's like, there's smoke, there's smoke, there's smoke. So we stop what we're doing, and in the room has a screen, and they call up on the screen, and we're watching the television, there's smoke, and they say that, new Holy Father's been selected. Jorge Reyes-A. Everyone's looking around, who is that? Never heard of this guy. So one of the bishops immediately, being quick on his feet, with his fingers, gets up, starts looking online. Okay, Jorge Bergoglio, Argentina, known for this, has done that, Jesuit, ooh, wow. Oh, this is going to be very interesting, etc. Lives very simple life, doesn't have much stuff, and takes the bus. He's reading on envelopes. Everyone pauses and he says, oh no, things are going to change. And they have. What a gift. What a gift the Holy Father has been to us. But there were questions about him. People didn't know much about him. So one of the things that came very early in his pontificate was World Youth Day in Brazil. What do you think, Brazil? And the question was going around for those of us who follow these things. Is this Pope going to like World Youth Day? Everyone wants to know, how is the Pope going to deal with youth, etc. Some people have heard maybe the Pope doesn't like World Youth Day. He thinks it's just an exciting thing or whatever. He loves World Youth Day, by the way. But there were questions. Everyone wondered, what's it going to be like? Well, he went down, and one of the first set of things he did when he went down for World Youth Day is he spoke to the bishops of Brazil. Now, these are his brothers. These are Latin Americans. And he gave a vision. And he laid out for them, and he said to them a few things that I think really anticipated his pontificate. If you go back and read the set of speeches he gave to the bishops in Brazil and the comments he made, you'll see a whole set of things he's done laid out. But one of the things he did was he shared what he considered his diagnosis. He shared with the bishops, this is what we're facing, this is the challenge. And I'd like to read that to you if you'll allow me. Just a section of what he said about what he called a culture of exclusion, or what he also called a throwaway culture. This is a little long, but it's Pope Francis, so it's easy on the ears. Okay? He's talking here about globalization, which he says has some many good things, but he says there's also some challenges. So that's the context. Quote, a relentless process of globalization, an often uncontrolled process of urbanization, people pouring into the cities, which you know is happening here as well, have promised great things. Many people have been captivated by the potential of globalization, which of course does contain positive elements, okay? He's not a pessimist, Francis. But many also completely overlook its darker side. I just want you to hear these words of Pope Francis and think how much of our world faces these things. Here's the darker side, he says. The loss of a sense of life's meaning. Personal disillusion. A loss of the experience of belonging to any nest. Home. Subtle but relentless violence. The inner fragmentation and breakup of families. Loneliness and abandonment. Divisions. The inability to love, to forgive, to understand. The inner poison which makes life a hell. The need for affection because of feelings of inadequacy and unhappiness. I work with a lot of young people. Many need affection because of feelings of inadequacy and unhappiness. The failed attempt to find an answer in drugs, alcohol, and sex, which only become further prisons. The great sense of abandonment and solitude, of not even belonging to oneself. Of not even belonging to oneself, which often results from this situation, is too painful to hide. And we're not going to stay here, but we want to see what Francis sees. And he looks around and what he sees is a world that has many promising things and many good people, and things he celebrates. But also a world in which there's been massive fragmentation, isolation, what he says in other places, breakdown of relationships. This didn't strike me as odd because both Mother Teresa, Benedict XVI, said, Mother Teresa, one of my great heroes, said the greatest poverty in the world is isolation. To being cut off from human relationships, set aside. When Pope Francis, by the way, talks about marginalization, the invisible ones, the people who are thrown away, he's talking about people who no one sees. I grew up in Latin America. In Latin America, there are millions of people living on the outskirts of the cities. The way the cities grow is people are coming in from the countryside looking for jobs. You know this dynamic, right? There's so many of them that they just live on the outside of the cities. They can't get in. people act like they're not even there. You will walk to the outsides, to the favelas, to the barrios, to the shanty towns, depending on what they're called. And there are millions of people who no one even treats as though they exist. They're not part of the economy, they're not part of society, it's as though they're not even there. These are the ones he's talking about. He's saying too many people experience fragmentation and isolation. In 1995, Mother Teresa came to the United States. Mother Teresa spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast. Maybe some of you remember this was a real powerful moment. Mother Teresa in the United States speaking at the Capitol, and here's this woman, she's 4 feet tall, and she's taken the whole world's paying attention to. God has lifted her up and given her a position. She says some beautiful things about life, the defense of life, and the poverty of being against life. She said some other things, though, and I want to point this one out. It was one of the first times she'd been to the States, and she was able to visit some of the homes for the elderly that her sisters had set up. And she's in Calcutta. She's literally picking up people who are maggot covered and dying in the streets, and she's just trying to provide whatever she can for them. And so she sets up in a former temple, Hindu temple, she sets up a little hospital, which you and I wouldn't even call a hospital, right? Just a place that she was help people die and has barely got enough resources, and she's begging. And she said she came to the States and she walked into these homes that her sisters ran, and she said she couldn't believe it. They were beautiful. She says you walk in those doors, and we've all been in these places, right? You walk in that glass door, and there's that lounge area. And there's the lounge area there, and there's these comfortable seats, and there's televisions, and there's boards on the walls that have activities you can do later, and a nice welcome desk, and someone smiling at you, and there's food, and there's everything you need. And she just said she was overwhelmed. She said, this is amazing. God, you're so good. And then she said she noticed something. She noticed that the people who lived there, who were sitting in that front room, they weren't watching the television. They weren't talking to one another. What were they doing? They were staring at those glass doors she just walked through. And so she turned to one of her sisters and she said, why are they staring through the doors? And her sister said, it's because they're waiting for a son or daughter to walk through those doors. Because they have been forgotten. And to be forgotten is the greatest pain. This is a culture of isolation. This is a fragmentation of relationships. We forget people. For many people, I served on college campuses for many years. I'm sure Sister will corroborate this. You're at a college campus, there's literally thousands of people walking by every day, and they're isolated and alone. Smiling, pretending like life is great, acting as though they've got everything together, but they're hiding who they really are. They know they're faking it. I'm not against social media, by the way. Social media is fine, but one of the temptations of social media for these young folks is you pretend you're someone you're not. So you're always faking it. So no one really knows who you are. You're projecting an image of yourself. Isolated. I walk the streets of Washington, D.C. You watch people walk right by each other, hooked up on their phone, hopefully having a real conversation, maybe not, forgotten alone. Something about modern life, and it's a conversation for another day, but something about modern life that Pope Francis saw, that Mother Teresa saw, that Benedict XVI saw, is it creates isolation. How do we address it? How do we address this isolation? Number two, we built a culture of mercy, a culture of encounter. Here's the thing about mercy. Mercy requires human contact, right? It requires us really engaging someone. When we see the Father's mercy, when the prodigal son is coming back, it's all about the relationships. It's all about the Father looking every day for his son to return, and when he sees his son returning, praising him, running to him. It's about the relationship with the older brother, and about getting that relationship right. And I'm sure every day some of us feel like we're the older brother, and every day some of us feel like the prodigal, and every day some of us feel like the father. We're all these people. They're all in us. Blessed be God. Lord loves us anyway. But it's relationship, where there's no mercy when there isn't relationship. When Jesus shows mercy, he shows mercy to a human being, to an individual. and there's an interaction. And we get to watch that later. So in other words, to build a culture in which mercy leads us, it requires us breaking down that isolation and really, truly, authentically encountering one. Culture of encounter, culture of mercy. A little bit on this word encounter. The Spanish word encuentro. In English we use encounter, and we can use it in a number of ways. I encountered someone can mean sort of an accidental quick meeting. I had an encounter with someone, it means something a little less pleasant, right? A little bit more military use of the term, and a military encounter. In Spanish, encuentro, when it's used in this context, it means something like two people really connecting and affirming one another's dignity. That somehow they really touched it. It doesn't have to be long either, by the way. It's just a real meeting. You know, when people would talk about meeting with a priest, or they talk about meeting John Paul II, or when they talk about meeting Pope Francis, or people like that, they can talk about shaking. A good friend of mine just came back from a meeting where he got to be with Pope Francis for about 15 seconds. And he had that classic line. He said, it was like I was the only person in the room. So he was looking right into it. That's an encounter. Something more is going on than just, hi, how you doing, and pleasantries. What's going on is you're actually in some way connecting at the level of your fundamental human dignity. You're affirming each other's dignity. There's something in that encounter that says, I'm glad you're alive. It is good that you're alive. It's good that I'm here talking to you. It's good that we have this brief moment together. That's an encuentro. And so when Pope Francis is talking about a culture like encuentro, he's a culture in which you and I walk around in everything we do. And in every human being we meet, we do not see a transaction simply, although transactions are part of life. We don't simply see the clerk who happens to be working behind the desk. We don't simply see a stranger we happen to bump into or ask us a question on the street. We don't simply see our family member who we see every day and begin to take advantage. It happens in families, it happens in marriages all the time. You take people for granted. We see in one another an immortal being made in the image of God Himself, who will outlast every nation, every civilization, the stars, the heavens themselves. There's no such thing, C.S. Lewis says, as an ordinary human being. Every human being is made for an immortal destiny. A grand destiny. A beautiful destiny. To live and actually partake in God's own nature. Forever. No work of art is going to live that long. No building we put up is going to live that long. No country is going to live that long. No nation. Every human being we meet is not just an ordinary human being. They bear the image and mark of their Creator, and they will endure forever. And in their transformed state, so beautiful that we would be tempted to worship them in this. What a transformation. That's who we're encountering. But how easy it is for just to walk by people. Transaction, deal with them, even in our own families. We miss. We don't take the time. Pope Francis brought this up in another wonderful speech. This was in Argentina. In Argentina, if you've been in Latin America, again, you know this. When you have processions in Latin America, there's a big deal. We're talking tens of thousands of people on the street for 10 hours. There's one in Peru, it's the largest procession in Peru. It lasts 24 hours they process. Good friends of mine want me to come participate in that one. I'm still thinking about it. Well, one of the things, shortly after Pope Francis was Pope, on the Feast of St. Cajetan, they would have a big procession in Argentina. And they would come and they would honor a relic of St. Cajetan. These people would be in line 10 to 12 hours in the streets. They would be waiting to get to the cathedral, and there Pope Francis would give a message. And after he became Pope, he still gave the message, but it was by Skype. He was on a big screen. And he gave a message. And it's one of the first times in his pontificate he used the word culture of encounter. And I'd just like to read you briefly from that, to give you a sense of what he means by an encounter. By the way, you need to picture this right. Because what's going on in a procession in Latin America, you've got tens of thousands of people. By the way, they're not there because they're the parishes. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming from some of those places where the invisible you don't see. And they're lining the streets. And by the way, if you're a beggar, if you're a poor person at that point, you need something, it's a great time when Catholics are feeling pretty guilty. It's essential to be waiting and asking. So you got to picture people are asking you for money as you're waiting in this long line. And this is what Pope Francis said on the screen. It was the Feast of St. Cajetan in 2013, and the theme for it was with Jesus and St. Cajetan, we encounter the neediest. The neediest. These are the isolated ones, the lonely ones. It's not just material need for Pope Francis. It includes them. This is what he said about that theme. This theme speaks of the people most in need, of those who need us to give them a hand, who need us to look at them with love, to share their pain or their anxieties, their problems. What's important is that we don't look at them from afar or help from afar. No, we must reach out to them. This is being Christian. Sometimes I ask people, do you give alms? And they say, yes, Father, I give alms. And when you give alms, do you look into the eyes of the people you are giving alms to? I don't know. I don't really think about it, they respond. That you have not reached out to those people. You just tossed them some charity and went away. When you give them alms, do you touch their hands? Or do you just toss them coins? No, Father, I just toss them coins. And you have not touched them. And you have not touched them, you have not reached out to them. We must be able to reach out to each other. We must build, create, and construct a culture of encounter. In many ways, the modern world, because it's largely a world in which we live on transactions, which are essential, because we're also busy, because we're distracted by those little boxes we carry around, because we've got things in our mind, we've got our own problems, we can miss each other, though. We can really miss one another. I'm a dad. I have 7 beautiful children. It's the greatest thing in life. I love being a dad of 7 children. It's great every night. My wife and I go to bed, exhausted but happy. Right? 7 children. Well, with that key phase in life, a few years back, I took kids in college, back when they were all home, and things were crazy. You know, I would get home from work and I would turn into bad Captain Von Trapp. And I would be getting ready to get out of the car and I'd reach in my pocket for my whistle. Because I didn't know what I was going to walk into. 7 kids, a lot of young ones. You walk in and half of them have clothes on and the other half have eaten. That's a good thing, right? And it's okay, all right, I don't care what the dishes are. But I knew, I'd get home and I had about 2.2 hours between when I walked through that door and when everyone had to be in bed. And so I just started blowing that whistle. And it was all about efficiency. I walk in, okay, you two, this one, you're bathing that one, how much you get on those dishes, where's the status on this? And I just start commanding, blowing the whistle, the children marched, they washed their hands, they were happy. They would do whatever I told them to do, and in the middle of this chaos, which I am so proud to order, inevitably it happens that 2-year-old comes up to you, he's been happy, comes up, pulls on your legs, Daddy, 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 he goes, not now, Daddy, 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 not now, Daddy, Daddy. What? Will you read me a book? Yes, but not now. And you forget that you're going to regret that later, right? Because you committed to something, right? And so then you get everything. What am I thinking the whole time? Getting my children around, besides the fact that I'm timing myself, making sure that I'm going to do better than I did last night. What am I thinking? I'm thinking about a bowl of ice cream that's going to be my reward at the end of the season. And I just can see it. You can hear the music in the background, angels singing, ah, and something lifted up, and in my mind, I'm just dreaming, it's a weekend, it's a glass of wine. And I'm just thinking, I can't. I can just get to that. And at the very end of the night, I made it, everybody's marching, we're on time, things are great, we're getting to the numbers, I'm this close to my ice cream. My little girl says, Daddy, you promised to read me one. But my wife's in the room, so I have to honor the promise, right? She's right there. So I go over, of course I'll read you a book. What shall you read me? nods and leaves. And she goes and she picks up, I remember this incident, this was very recent, she picks a book called Maisie Bakes a Cake. Have you heard of this book? No. Maisie Bakes a Cake is a cake about a little mouse, a book about a little mouse who bakes a cake for 700 pages. It feels like it's this fat. You cannot make a cake for 700 pages. And so we sit down on the couch and the book just felt like 1,000 pounds and you get Maisie wants to make a cake. Okay. She starts to think about all of the ingredients that go into a cake. All of the ingredients. And you look at all these pages and you're thinking, this cannot be. And my wife's not in the room. So I look over my shoulder, turn and go back. She made the cake, it's delicious. Done! Come back. I'll never in my life have those 5 minutes with you. Never. Never. When I get that 5 minutes with her. Encounter. Real interaction. My daughter. Made for immortal glory. That I can't even imagine. And I didn't want to go for this. How quickly we can miss the most important thing in front of us. And if we miss the healing, we will miss mercy. We won't be able to show mercy. And we won't be able to receive mercy if we're not encountering the other. It doesn't have to be the biggest deal in the world. One of the things I did is, as His Excellency mentioned, I ran Catholic Charities for the Archdiocese of Denver. We had 5 homes for homeless shelters, the biggest homeless shelter west of Mississippi. And it slept about 360, still does, so it's 360 people a night, about 60 of those are children, usually going to be age of about, average age of about 5, because we have families. And if you've ever been in a big homeless shelter like this, they're their own ecosystem. They've got their own rules. They're a little dicey, right? You got a lot of people in there. You're trying to keep everything in order. You got medication and this thing. You got things here, that. My first day on the job, I got a call from Samaritan House. That was the name of it. First day I was CEO of Catholic Charities. They said, we found an urn full of ashes in one of the file cabinets. What do you want me to do? I said, this was not in the job description. I had no idea what to do with an urn full of ashes. You know what they are? No. This is the kind of record. So you have a lot of rules, and you keep things down. One of the rules in Samaritan House is you don't let anyone in after 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, it's locked, no matter what. In the winter, it's always full. Always full. Well, a wonderful Franciscan priest who served there for many, many years tells a story of an encounter that I want to share with you. He was one of his first times serving the Samaritan House. There's only 2 people on duty in the Samaritan House, and you're sitting in this desk in the bottom floor, and there's blue benches. Everyone comes and sits on these blue benches, and you're just watching that clock going, please let the night go through without incident. Please let the night go through. He says one of the first times that he's all night, he's got a young volunteer, someone who knows less than he does. And it's his first night on the job, and he says, sure enough, it's one of these freezing cold Denver nights, the weather's horrible, it's been bad, the place is full, knock on the door. 1 o'clock in the morning. And he just thinks, oh no, what do I do? I'm not allowed to open the door. Well, he goes, he looks out, there's a glass door. There's a human being standing there, wrapped up, and he can't not open the door, so he opens the door, and in walks this person who turns out eventually he learns her name is Mary, but he said Mary looked like someone who'd been trying to survive on the street on a horrible night. She was wrapped head to toe with clearly coats and scars and things she found, and swallowed, etc., except for one thing, she had shoes on. She had shoes on. So she was walking the streets with bare feet, bloody, covered with snow, and he brings her in, and he puts her on the blue bench, and he proceeds to do what any sort of normal person in that situation, at least like me, would do, which is to start problem solving. Because Mary has a problem that needs to be solved. What hospitals are open? I don't have any beds. Do I open the clothing room, even though I'm not supposed to open the clothing room at night, to see if I can get her something to wear? Who do I call the boss? What do I have to set this up? And he starts running through this, and he says, while he's doing that, this young person who was a volunteer walked into the other room, got a bowl, filled it with warm water, put a towel over her shoulder, came back, knelt down in front of her, and started washing her feet. It didn't solve all the problems. It didn't answer all the questions. But you know what? For a couple of minutes there, Mary knew she She had dignity. She knew someone cared about her. She knew she wasn't invisible. And when? They never saw Mary again. They don't know Mary's story. You know, we had a ministry we started for the homeless called Christ in the City. You know, a lot of the homeless people we see, and I know you have them here in Juneau, and I assume other places from where people come from. They can often go 45 months without hearing their own name said out loud. And quiet. In our families, with the people we see. For mercy to be real, we need to build a culture of account. This is the invitation Pope Francis gives us, and the invitation is here at mercy. Now let me conclude, because I know I'm over time probably. And I'll talk more than that. Let me just say this again, and we'll deal with more on. The invitation of the Year of Mercy, the invitation to build a culture in which you and I, every day, treat every human we see and every interaction we have as an encounter with an immortal being who God loves to the point of giving His only Son. We can change. We can change the world around us. In fact, it's the only thing that can. I think these days we feel especially the limitation of politics in terms of changing the world. Giving talks doesn't change the world, to be honest. Making new rules doesn't change the world. It doesn't matter. If we want to change the world, we change it by building a culture that starts with the way we treat every other human being. I think, as I get to spend the next couple of days with you, I just invite you to this. Don't treat the next couple of days like some neat talks, some good music, some opportunities to be together. That's all true. That's all wonderful things. But I think, and I got to tell you, I speak all over the country, people are anxious about the times we're living right now. People are nervous about what's going on. People are sort of asking questions in a slightly frenetic way, whether it's economic or political or whatever. I'm just a little unsure. Everyone's a little... Treat this weekend as an opportunity where God is inviting the Diocese of Juneau to build and create a culture of mercy and a culture of encounter that's going to change the world around us. Take it as a sense of mission that you're being called to something. Ask yourself over the weekend, Lord, what do you want from me? What can I do? What am I not doing? Where am I not living mercy? This question I'm asking myself too. This is the invitation. I think God wants all of our dioceses. I think He cares about the church right now more than ever being an authentic witness. I think that's why He's given us Pope Francis. And to be this authentic. So taking advantage this weekend of saying to the Lord, all right, Lord, what can we do? This is going to be a great weekend. It's going to be enjoyable. What can we do? And I end with this. It starts with us. We can't give what we don't have. And if we haven't experienced the Lord's mercy, we can't give it. If we haven't experienced God encounter us, that's the first encounter. God encountering us, and us encountering Him. Christianity is not a creed, it's not a set of rules, it's not a philosophy of life, it includes all those things. Christianity is fundamentally an encounter. An encounter with God. And tonight there's going to be confession. It's a great opportunity for encounter. It's a perfect way to start off a weekend like this is devoted not just to our own spiritual life, but to the mission that the Lord calls us to. I am extremely happy to be sharing this mission with you. Thank you for having me with you. I look forward to the next couple of days.